Okay, video 6 here is going to be fairly short. We're going to pick up where we left off. We've gotten to our specifications. We put our tow reference all in to get the specifications. Now everything's there, shows we're good to go. Now we're going to come down here to the prompt that tells us to mount the sensors. So when I click on this, it tells me sensor is not connected or turned on each one of these wheels, and it shows me where I should have put my sensors at. Okay, so that's telling me that it's not on, and what it means on that is right here on the end it's got an on button, so I'd want to turn that on, and now I have, it's hard to see with the sliding in here, but got some light showing up on here now that wasn't there before. Now if you look, it's telling me that sensor requires compensation, so it's on, the other ones are off. So let's look at what I've done here. This is the driver's side front, the one I just turned on. It's connected. Now I said our batteries are bad, so I went with hardwire. These cables, one of these cables has to be connected to the machine from somewhere on the vehicle, doesn't matter where, and it just goes around, and there's multiple connections back here for different applications, so it's multiple. As long as it's in one of those ports, it doesn't matter, the computer figures it out. Then from this sensor, I have nothing around the front because I don't hook them up at the front to connect the sensors together, because you're going to have to get into there and do like a tow adjustment and that kind of stuff, so you don't want a cable in the way. More going on in the front, so I usually don't hook a front one up, but I have to have one from this sensor back to the sensor back here on the back. This is on the very rear axle like our diagram showed us. Once again, this one's not on, there's no lights up here, but we didn't push the button. As soon as we push the button, now we've got lights up here. Same thing, it'll tell us up there this sensor's on but not compensated, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. I've got another cable from this one going across up over the fifth wheel to stay out of the way. Connected to the sensor on the back axle over here, their back wheel assembly. So once again, no lights on, it's not on. I'm going to turn it on. Now my lights are there. My screen up there will be telling me it's on but not compensated. Here's our cable that was coming across to here. Now I've got a cable coming off this one. Doesn't matter if it's top or bottom. The computer figures all this out, so it doesn't matter where we plug them up as long as we have enough cables hooked up. So now I have one off of here, coming up the right side of the truck to this front wheel. Once again, it's not on. Let's kick that on. Now we got lights. Our screen will be telling us that they're all on. I'll show you here in a minute. The other thing we have is the front is sitting on turntables. So these turntables are really heavy. One goes under each front wheel because we're going to do some steering to do all of our alignment checks. It also has the degrees on there. If you could find a specification, you can put it on these turntables if you were checking the steering angle on some of those previous task sheets. And it's got degrees and a pointer, so as this wheel turns, the pointer will tell you how many degrees the wheel turned, and you can see when it stops. So that would be the way that you would check that, but you have to have it set on these turntables basically to do that, and kind of have to have it with the alignment machine. So that's how you do that, but we have to set it on these turntables, and we have to remove the pins, and the computer is going to tell us to do that. The alignment machine is going to tell us to do that. Okay. One thing, safety, while we're on this, you have to jack the vehicle up and put these turntables under it and set it down on the turntables after they're compensated. Do not drive off of these. It will launch this thing, and it is very heavy, across the shop about shin bone high for about 35 feet if you drive the truck off of it. So when we're done, we have to jack the truck up and take the turntable out and put it up. So don't ever make that mistake and try to drive off of these turntables. They make a little ramp you could put on there, but I just recommend jacking it up and taking the turntable out, setting the truck back on the ground when you're done with the alignment. We talked about this earlier, how these mount. There's the bottom, there's the top. Just take a quick look when you mount these sensors and make sure that you have about equal spacing here, because it'll find its center because of the groove in the wheel. It's not flat. But if one of those is like way off, when you go to compensate, it'll tell you it has excessive lateral run out and make you reconnect the sensor. So just take a quick look when you mount them up there. To mount the sensors, you set it on the bottom, push this top into there, and I already put it on because I'm having to do this video by myself, but it's got a hand crank handle here that expands that clamp out off of this center, and that's how it tightens up and stays on there. So we've got it installed. I turned the little handle till it was on there tight. Now don't try to see if you can rip it off by force, but after you mount it, be sure you grab a hold of this and make sure you can't pull it loose. Just give it a little tug. It's got these little cables with a hook. On the ground it doesn't really matter, but what these are for is they hook in one of the holes of the wheel, where if the sensor got knocked loose, the cable would catch it and it wouldn't fall all the way to the ground if you were on an alignment rack, but we're aligning this on the floor. So it really doesn't help. It would still hit the ground because we're not that high from the concrete, so I don't hook them up, but that's what that little hook is for. So I've got all these connected. I'm going to compensate one sensor just to show you how that works, and then on the next video I'll have them all compensated and we'll move on, but you have to compensate each one. So here's how you do the compensation process. And what you're doing with compensating is, if this adapter is not mounted perfectly on the wheel, which there's no way to do that, you could have a little bit of a dent in the wheel where you have it connected, not perfectly true. So we have to roll this thing around, and the computer takes measurements and compensates for it not being installed perfectly straight with the wheel assembly and the axle, basically. So that's why we do the compensation. So here's the compensation process. And I'll show you real quick on this. Right now our screen shows that all the sensors are on, but they require compensation. I can't show you this right because of the distance, but as you turn the wheel, these little wheels turn on here. It's kind of cool to watch it do it. It tells you to remove the pins from the turn plates. After they're compensated, you're going to lower the vehicle, then level and lock the sensors. So it's got everything on there that you do. You just follow the orders. So we're going to compensate this back wheel here. So we're going to start with this straight up and down. Don't have to be perfect, but this has a level on top of it like a carpenter would use on a builder's level or whatever. So we're going to take this little knob, and what this little knob does is locks this sensor from being able to move, because sometimes we have this unlocked, sometimes locked, depending on what we're doing. So we're going to turn this little screw and lock this in place. Go to our level. And we're going to get it level. Hold it in place, and we're going to push the button right here in the middle. When I push that, it's going to come on and blink on a little red light. You can't see the color on this, but it's red right here blinking. Okay, up here it has 1, 2, 3. So in 3 different areas we're going to compensate this. So now we're going to loosen this off. We're going to turn it the direction the arrows are telling us until this light comes on over here. So it's telling us to go this way. Okay. Hard to tell in this lighting, but now we have a green light over here that's on constant. So I'm going to lock this down again. And once again, we're going to get this level. And it's real sensitive. We got it level. We're going to push this button in the middle. The green light goes out. Now it starts blinking really fast, telling us we got one more to do. Loosen that off. Roll that on around until the green light over here comes on again, which it just did. Once again, lock this. level it. It's uber sensitive. Got it level. I'll push this again. Now both lights are on. Nothing's blinking. That tells us it's compensated. You don't have to, but I go ahead and roll this back up here to the top. Now the reason I do that is when we're done with this alignment, I'm going to have to take this sensor off. Now everything's in place for me to be able to grab it, turn this loose and get it off, and it's not all twisted around down at the bottom or at some weird angle. Both lights on. That's the left rear. Now when we come up to our screen, sensor's okay, and we've got a number down here now and it's green. I want to compensate the rest of them. We'll pick up the next video.